know that you've got opinions on these pressers.
Yeah, I'm the wrong guy to answer this question because
That's why I've gave you.
Like just a personal opinion, I couldn't care less who comes out of it. See if Tav comes out there, regardless of what Tav says, he gets absolutely slaughtered. It wouldn't appease anybody. I think just as a fan base, we put so much emphasis on these press conferences and post-match comments. It's just not for me. At the end of the day, we lost. It's the same. I think we put far too much emphasis on captains and stuff like that. That's just a personal opinion. So whether it was Connor Barron, whether it was Tav, whether it was Butland, whoever it may well have been, it doesn't really make any difference because at the end of the day, what are they going to say that's going to appease us from what was another really, really poor Rangers performance, of which there have been countless this season?
Many. Yeah, many. Thank you very much, by the way, Kyle, for the support, my friend. Thank you for helping to support the channel. Well, I have seen on social media over the last couple of days, the person that's coming in for the most criticism is James Tavernier.
Okay. Why? Because James Tavernier will always be criticised because he's the link between this very poor Rangers team, the last very poor Rangers team, the very poor Rangers team before that, and the very poor Rangers team before that. He's the last.
What about the quality Rangers team in the Championship? Can we give him that at least?
No, it's the Championship. You can't really give him that at all, no. But that's the thing. A lot of people see, until he's gone, you're still stuck with the remnants of what we had back then. As you said yourself, he was in the Championship. He's been here 10 years. I mean, Smoke McGraw just put it in the comments. He's a losing captain. I mean, he's been at Rangers 10 years. He's been the captain most of that time. He's lifted 3 trophies. That's not good enough for any Rangers captain. And it's not all on him because you can't do it himself. And as we've said earlier on, they've had some absolute shocking players sit at the backs playing beside him and some strikers that can't score goals, etc. But he's always going to get criticism. But he's one of those players as well that he's going to be remembered fondly after he's been away a few years, I think. But at the moment, he gets loads of criticism because he's been the captain, and as Stuart says, we put far too much emphasis on who the captain is and what the captain does. He's been the captain that's overseen an awful lot of really bad results, a lot of unwanted records in our club's history. I mean, that's him now being captain when we've lost five home games in a row for the first time ever. That's another one to add to his CV of unwanted records. And until James Tavernier isn't here, he's always going to get it. He could come out on Thursday night, have the game of his life, people will still criticise him because he's James Tavernier.
Is it because he's James Tavernier, Stuart, or is it because he's Rangers captain? If he wasn't the captain, would he be getting as much stick?
Tav's always get stick, hasn't he? He's a lightning rod for some people love him, some people have never really taken to him. I think the captaincy element of it has absolutely added to the criticism that he gets. And for whatever reason, and again, CGM put a comment, no, he's not a leader and stuff like that. I've said before in this pod, the day that James Tavernier leaves Rangers, you wait to see his social media and the number of players that have played with him and around him who call him my captain and whatever. So again, it's how we perceive things, what we or you as an individual might think in terms of what I'd want my captain. I do think we have we want a Terry Butcher with blood-soaked rags coming down his Richard Gough. That's that sort of, and captaincy's kind of changed slightly now. So how Tav is in and around that dressing room, around about that training centre, how he handles himself, how he looks after himself and all that might be inspiring to others. Now, for some people, they might go, well, I'm not really interested in that, because all at the end of the day, we want to see Tav doing is hold up bright, shiny things at the end of the season, and he's not done that enough. So the captaincy's absolutely played a part. Again, I'll repeat, it's just a personal opinion. I think we put far too much emphasis on it because Tav could be the greatest leader. You could have freaking Terry Butcher in that team. You could have Gough in that team. I'm not convinced Rangers are winning much, though, because it's one person.
Well, I'll bring this straight back to you, Stuart. Gallant's saying Rangers Rangers captains win trophies. End of. If you took Tav out of that team when he came in and put in another player, just about every other signing, every other manager's been exactly the same. You just replace Tav. Does it make the slightest bit of difference to where we are right now?
No. By the way, in many games, Tav has single-handedly dragged us through games and got his huge victories with goals, etc. My God, he scored the winning goal in a cup final. So he couldn't have played much more of a part in that game when we won the League Cup. He was brilliant during the 55 season. He chipped in with all these goals and assists, etc. But he's one player out of a squad of players who all need to contribute. And in terms of level of contribution, there are players that are in a far worse position than James Tavernier, I think. That's not to say he's immune from criticism. Of course he is. But I just personally don't really get worked up by the fact that Rangers lost on Saturday and it was Connor Barron that came out to do the interview. I honestly, I couldn't care less, because what are they going to say that's going to make me feel any better?
Well, if you start a comment, would you like to expand?
Yeah, well, when Jordy's saying rather the captain rattling and screaming at the boys rather than just stand there, I don't think the way society is today, captains can do that anymore. You know, you've got Terry Butchers and Richard Goffs and, you know, Graham Souness's and guys like that running about, you know, throwing football boots at people and teacups flying about dressing. I don't think that any manager or captain at any club can do that these days, just because of the way society is. There's too many, you know, somebody in that dressing room or in that team's going to take offence to it, and it's going to cause all sorts of ructions. So I don't think, you
can lead by example in different ways.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, you don't need to be, you know, you don't need to be shouting and screaming. I mean, your captain doesn't necessarily have to be doesn't have to be a best player, for example, right? They do need to lead by example. I don't know what it takes to be a football captain. I've never been one. Right? I've certainly never been a successful one. So
I've worked for managers, by the way, who went down the shouting and bawling route. I thought they were arseholes.
Yep.
I've also
worked
for managers who led by a different way, went about actually doing the right things. They were very good at their job. By the way, I took...
Thanks very much, Stuart.
Hi, obviously you, Martin. But I'd follow them rather than the idiot who just thinks shouting and bawling. This will always be a polarising debate, you know, and it doesn't mean anybody's wrong on it. It's just your personal view of it. Like say, but go back to what you had. Yeah, probably Tav. If Tav hadn't been captain and Tav had just played for Rangers for this amount of time, then does he get as much criticism as he does? Then no. So the armband has weighed heavy on him, in the eyes of many supporters, and you'll either believe that to be the case, or you'll think, well, actually, that's harsh, and that's again, it's just personal opinion.
Sorry, Martin. Another issue Tav's had from, if you want to take as the captain being important, right? Back when we were winning 9 in a row, when we were, you know, a very, very, very successful team, the team was full of captains. Okay, one guy had the armband on, but there was captains all over the park, right? For the most part, Tav's not had that because of the sort of players he's had to play with. You know, you've got that to take into consideration. And I'm not saying that excuses anything that he has or hasn't achieved at Rangers, but you know, you had Richard Goff and Andy Gorham and Ian Ferguson and Ali McCoist and all these guys. They were all leaders in their own way in various different parts of the field. You know what I mean?
Think back to Barry's time. You had Lorenzo Amoruso, Craig Moore, Fernando Rickson, Ronald de Boer. You had hundreds of captains in that.
My point exactly.